What is up, fight fans? Welcome to another episode of the Sweet Science 365 with your host, Jeff Bolts. Busy week for me, so I'm going to try to get this episode in. And, been super busy. My kids' first week off of for summer break, first official week. I let them have a week off from training, kind of be lazy, do their own thing before we jump back into it this week. Uh, but also, with the wife's schedule and my schedule, she wants to do her thing. So, super busy week. Been staying active with the kids. I know you guys are probably busy too with your kids' summer break and all that fun stuff. But let's delve into some of the topics we're going to talk about today. Of course, Taylor versus Lopez fight is a fight we're going to talk about. We're also going to delve into a little bit, and let's not forget about the boxing reform thing with Teddy Atlas. I want to reiterate that over and over, just to get people over to his page to sign the petition. Let's get boxing to the next era. Let's move it into the future, guys. So don't forget about that. We'll talk a little bit on that to try to remind you guys to get over there and sign that petition if you're a true boxing fan. It's something that needs to be signed and something that needs to be done. Thank you guys for supporting that if you are. We're also going to talk about Clarissa Shields' dominance in the women's boxing. We're going to talk about the altogether. What is there? There's a Thursday fight. There's a fight Friday. Tomorrow there's going to be three fights on Saturday, and then there's going to be a Sunday exhibition fight. Mayweather versus Gotti the third. So, hey man, we got a full week of boxing. A really good start for June, honestly. I called June a snoozer last week. I'm going to take that back after looking at the schedule a little bit more. It seems like we do have some pretty decent fights this month. Won't get into all of them in this episode. We'll delve into what's going on this week because you got Jaime Munguia on the fight card. Haven't seen him in a while. Nice to see him back. You got Sonny Edwards and Campos on the fight card this week. So along with Josh Taylor and them. So it's a big fight week, man. Definitely a good start for June. Not June snoozer, I wouldn't say. So I'll take that back on saying that it was going to be a snoozer for June. Let's delve into the big talk this week. The last couple of weeks, it's really been heating up. When this fight was announced, I saw it as another big fight for the year. Not the biggest, of course, with Spence and Crawford probably going to be the biggest, and I still put Davis and Garcia over this fight. Probably, I mean, we'll see what the outcome. It might be a better fight than that fight was. Haney Loma, I think, was a bigger fight than this, but at the 140 welterweight, it's probably the biggest fight, I think, at that weight class with these two guys. A guy just coming up to 140, who's had a couple fights at 140. He looked good in his first one, not so good in his last one. I want to say against Martin, Sanchez Martin, whatever the guy's name is. Teo didn't look great in that fight. Of course, we know Josh Taylor's last fight against Catterall wasn't his best performance, and you might be able to say he lost that fight. But he got the decision in that one. Once again, judging in a fight that he probably should have lost. And I like to see those two rematch each other depending on what happens in this fight. And regardless of what happens, I think Catterall deserves that rematch for that, definitely. But building up when this fight got announced, the first month, quietness from these guys. Not a lot of talk, not a lot of build up to the fight. And those last 2 weeks, these guys haven't shut up. They've been going at it back and forth on the internet during their interviews. I mean, these guys are going at it. Lopez is really, I don't know, man. Lopez is Lopez. Is anybody surprised by anything this guy says at this point? No way, man. I mean, it's Teofimo. He's always been outspoken since he's been in the sport. His dad is a very outspoken person, so you kind of see where he might get that from. But he speaks and says what he wants to say, and you can't fault a guy for that. I know in this new age and this new generation, people don't like for people to speak their mind. He said what he had to say about Top Rank. And, even if you agree or disagree with that, he said what he had to say. Kind of sound like during the press conference today, he was saying his goodbye to Top Rank. So I don't know what his next step is after the Taylor fight, where he might go. I don't know. He did the fight with the Zone and Kambosa, and he didn't have a lot of good things to say about the Zone after that fight. And so, I mean, where does it go? Does it go over to Showtime? And Showtime's in a limbo right now. They just got bought out by Paramount, and Paramount's not for sure what they're going to do with the boxing program. So, I mean, do you go over to PBC? Where's PBC going? And are they on stable enough ground for you to want to jump over there? There's not really a lot of places for him to jump to. If he wants the top guys, it looks like Top Rank has the top guys at 140. He can go to the zone, fight Progress, who's fighting next weekend, if I'm correct, or he could try to make a big fight with Ryan Garcia at 140, and stuff like that. There's options for him, but I feel like Top Rank might be his best option. But I feel like his mouth uh, might have lost that deal for him. He may have no choice but to go over to the zone. I mean, he can go to Showtime. I really don't know who Showtime has at 140, to be honest with you, big fighter wise. I want to say the zone and Top Rank have those guys locked in pretty much. So, depending on what he does against Josh Taylor, is really, I think, going to depend on his future big time. But man, he's talking a lot of loud noise, man. He's saying a lot of things. He wants to take Taylor's life. Uh, I don't know. I think this guy's life right now is in. I don't like to speak on other people's life. I just know he's going through some stuff with his baby mama and his child. I'm glad I don't have to deal with things like that, so I can't speak on what he's going through. I couldn't imagine not being allowed to see my kids. I live for my kids, so I couldn't imagine not waking up every day with my kids or not being able to see my kid anytime I wanted to. So I'm not going to speak on that for him or what kind of mindset that might put him in. I know it would put me in a different state of mindset. I just hope he's focused in this fight coming up because this is a huge fight for him at 140. If he can beat a guy like Josh Taylor, um, who has beat six straight undefeated fighters. I mean, Josh Taylor is the real deal. He's a natural 140. He's a naturally bigger fighter in this fight, and he's got a lot to prove too. So he's been more level-headed than Lopez, but you can see Lopez is getting under his skin a little bit. He's starting to maybe win that mind game battle against Taylor, in my opinion, because he seems to be, Taylor's getting very aggravated with the things that he's saying and just kind of calling him out. Hey, you're an idiot. You're who calls herself the self-proclaimed greatest. All that other stuff. So he seems to be aggravating Taylor. Now we saw how that worked against Lopez in the Kambosa fight when Kambosa kind of worked that mind game against him. The same thing he's doing to Taylor kind of got into his head a little bit. And Lopez came out swinging and didn't have the best fight plan and then didn't really even back off just going out the way he did. I don't know. Taylor's going to come out doing the same thing. But I think the minute this round starts, the minute that bell rings, these two are going to come out of those corners and they're going to come out swinging and they're going to go out there trying to knock each other out in the very first round. I can guarantee it. So it's going to be a really good fight. The build up with these guys, man. Like I said, Taylor has to prove that Catterall fight was just a bad fight. Like you said, I mean, he just came off unified champ, touring the world. I mean, yeah, he admitted he didn't train for that fight the way he should have and it caused him to go in, and I saw the fight. If you watch the fight, Taylor didn't look like Taylor. He looked like he didn't train for the fight, like he said, and he just looked like he wasn't prepared correctly to go out there against a guy like Catterall, who I think he underestimated. I think everybody did. Look what Catterall's been doing since then. He's been a force to be reckoned with. He just won his last fight. If Taylor wins this fight, that sets up a good 140 battle between those two. Uh, that I think a lot of people are going to want to see the boxing, the real boxing fans out there definitely want to see that rematch of that fight. As far as Taylor, I mean, can he lose this fight after losing to Cabosa and still be somebody that's going to draw the crowd? Uh, I mean, we see Rolly. Rolly's mouth gets him a lot of fights, and he's not a good fighter. Lopez is a good fighter. So can he? If he loses this, can he bounce back from this loss? Uh, Mentally, all the things he's going through, I think a loss would be more damaging to him than it would Taylor. I think Taylor could bounce back from a loss. Um, and I think this would be his first loss for Taylor if he does lose. So I think he could bounce back from this if he did lose. I'll give my big prediction on this fight because this is my fight of the week, of course. We'll get later into that into the episode. The fight of the week is, of course, this fight right here, Taylor versus Lopez, and we'll also talk about my big fight prediction, which is also going to be this fight. I'm going to predict on who I think is going to win this fight. We'll do it later on in the show. Let's jump over to the fight from last week. Clarissa Shields, the GOAT, she had the night all to herself in boxing. No other matches. Weirdly enough, nothing was going on. So I watched it. The crowd in Detroit, okay crowd. Clarissa Shields absolutely dominated. I mean, she dominated that fight. It was somebody. I'm trying to think of the girl's name. I want to pronounce it right because it's a Mexican. She's a Mexican American fighter. Um, Cajonia, never mind. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Let's just skip that. I'll spend 30 minutes trying to pronounce this girl's name. Anyways, she just kind of took a beating. She has a nice jaw to her. And Clarissa showed me that she kind of lacks on power, but man, there's nobody on her level, regardless of what her power is. She's going to outbox you. And you could tell she wanted to get a knockout in that fight. She wanted to impress the crowd, her home crowd, being back home in Detroit. And she put on a show. It went all 10 rounds. Um, unanimous decision. Clarissa dominated the fight. My question is where does she go from here, man? And why is she not the face of boxing? Why is Clarissa Shields not the face of boxing? Why is America not backing her like they should? I think we get more backing in America for Katie Taylor than we do Clarissa Shields. So it makes you wonder why this woman who's come in and dominated the sport and she's helped take it to that next level. Her and girls like Katie Taylor have helped take the sport to the next level and take women's boxing into the next era. So I think she should definitely get a lot more respect for what she's done. After that fight, she goes and she likes to talk to her opponents afterwards, which is something you rarely see. She goes into the locker room, she has conversations. She had conversation with the girl she just beat. Salty, I don't remember her name, but anyways, she was giving her advice on what she saw that she did in that fight that she could fix and all that other stuff and kind of help her later on in her career, which is awesome. You know what I mean? And even invited the girl to come train with her if she wanted to. Uh, So, there you go. I mean, somebody like that in women's sports who dominates the sport, right? And then she goes and she mentors these girls, gives them advice, tries to tell them, become friends with them, and doesn't make it, what I mean, like doesn't make it a hate thing. You know what I mean? She might go in there looking like she wants to kill you before the fight, but she seems to be really all about the sport and all about helping other women in the sport, even girls that she's fighting, girls she's going to fight. So, of course, I'd like to see her and Savannah Marshall possibly fight against. But even then, Savannah Marshall's not on her level. She outboxed her completely the last fight, even with Savannah being a bigger girl, more power. She couldn't do anything with Clarissa. Clarissa is obviously the best in the sport, and the question is who does she fight next? Who's she going to fight next? I don't know who's out there for her. And where the big money fight would be. Probably over in the UK with Savannah Marshall, obviously, is where she's going to make the most money at this point. I'd love her to see her, you know, draw a big crowd here in the US, man. Get a big fight in Vegas or up in New York and draw the type of crowd that Katie Taylor did against a big time name. I know there's some young girls out there. I don't quite think they're ready for the level of Clarissa Shields, but somebody's got to step up and fight her next, and we'll see who it is. But anyways, great fight by her, and great after fight, you know, composure by her to go and talk to her opponent the way she does. I really respect that. I think she's a great role model for younger girls in the country. My two daughters look up to Clarissa Shields. They love the way she fights and the way she conducts herself in and out of the ring. and it's good to look up to. My 11-year-old likes her, and of course my 6-year-old is more of a Katie Taylor fan, but she likes Clarissa. And she said, "Clarissa's mean. Clarissa's mean, Dad. Clarissa's mean." And I'm like, "Yeah, she's tough, but she's a good role model for my girls, so that's great to see. And I try to get them to make sure they support American fighters. We are American, and that's nothing against the rest of the world. But hey, the rest of the world supports their fighters, man. Europe, they support their guys. In Ireland, they support their people. All across the world. In Mexico, they support their people. They come out and they show the support. I'd like to see Americans do that more with our fighters. Like I think I talked about this last week, uh, how it kind of threw me off to see an American crowd in Las Vegas, Nevada, where Haney trains and is from, to be getting booed, and Loma, the guy from another country, getting cheered on during the fight. And in America, where we have an undisputed champion in Haney, and we should back this guy. I mean, he's our champion right now. He's got all the belts in the U.S. in that division, man. You got to back this guy. You got to start backing your American fighters. Um, Other countries back their guys, man. We got to start doing the same thing. I think it's kind of disrespectful for us to be chanting another fighter's name from another country in our own country while our guys in the ring. That doesn't show a lot of respect to our American fighters. And you wonder why a lot of them go to other countries to fight. If they're going to be booed, why not be booed by guys in Europe and Mexico and places like that? Nobody wants to be booed by their own home. I mean, and Haney was literally, he's from Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, and you guys are booing him. Come on, man, that's kind of sad. That's silly. But I don't want to get too off topic with that one. And throw me off course on what this week is all about. Like I said, we got fights that start today. Let me look up on my fight schedule to see who starts out this week. I want to say Manuel Flores will be our fight today. Yeah, it looks like it is him today. You'll have Manuel Flores versus Walter Sanabons. June 8th, check your local listings. That's going to be on the zone. That is Fantasy Springs Resort Casino in Indio, California. On the co-main event for that fight, you're going to have a female boxing veteran and former two-division world champion, Jelena Marjokovic, and she's 41, 12, and 4, 19 KOs, and she's coming back from Canada, and she'll make her return to the ring. Don't know much about her. Maybe I'll check that out here in a little bit if that fight, pretty sure, should be coming up here soon. And like I said, I think that fight's going to start probably around, it's in California, so I'd say 8 o'clock, so late card here, possibly, unless they started early. I like Flores a lot. I don't know much about the other guy, but I like Flores, so I'll probably check that fight out after I jump off here. And you got another fight tomorrow night in the light heavyweight contest. You got Ali Ismailovov versus Charlie Foster. That's going to be at 9 p.m. on Showtime. I'll definitely be watching that. I have Showtime for one reason only, and that is boxing. I don't watch anything else on there really. That's going to be in Turning Springs Resort Casino in Verona, New York. That's going to be a fight up in New York. So I'd say, well, it says 9 o'clock time. So that's going to be another late one. So we'll have two fights in America Thursday and today and tomorrow. So that will allow everybody to be able to watch probably both of those fights. It won't be too early over in Europe. Sorry about that, man. All right, and then Sunday, three big fights on Sunday. Uh, I mean, well, of course, we know about Taylor Lopez. We know about that fight. Uh, that's going to be the main fight, in my opinion. Josh Taylor versus Teofimo Lopez. That's going to be on ESPN. Pretty sure on ESPN Plus also, and that's going to be Madison Square Garden, New York City. I say that's probably going to be 9 or 10 o'clock start time on the main event for that. I would say the undercard. ESPN likes to throw really, really good undercards, so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see maybe a 7, 8 o'clock undercard start time for that fight, and then that fight probably carry into about midnight before the main event would be over. But let's go over to one of my favorite fights for tomorrow, one that I really want to watch. Of course, not over the Taylor Lopez fight, but if I had to choose another fight outside of that, the one that I want to watch a lot would be the Sonny Edwards versus Andrews Campos. And I like both of these guys. That's going to be a great fight for the IBF flyweight title. That's going to be on the Zone also. The Zone putting on some shows tomorrow, and that's going to be OVO Arena in Wembley. That's going to have a couple women on that undercard on that. Nina Hughes is defending her WBA bantamweight crown against Shannon Courtney. And Shanika Johnson is defending her IBF super bantamweight strap against Ellie Scottney. So you got some women on that card tomorrow. You got looks like quite a few 3 women's fights on those cards tomorrow. Not bad. Give my daughter something to watch. And then finally, Jaime Magia is going to be fighting Dervinchenko. Uh, I don't know much about Surly. And that's going to be tomorrow, of course, 8 o'clock fight time on the Zone also. So I take it if you looks like honestly Saturday looks like if you can jump in, you can catch that Sonny Edwards Campos fight early because that's going to be over in the UK. So we'll be able to watch that probably starting at 1 or 2 o'clock, and that main fight card should be around 4 or 5 o'clock, I would say. And then that's going to take you into if you wanted to watch the Jaime Magia fight after that. The zone's going to take you directly into watching that. That's going to be at the Toyota Arena in Ontario, California. I like Jaime. I just want to see him fight somebody more on his level. I know Darvinchenko is a pretty good fighter, so it's a little bit more of a challenge for him. I'm still not impressed. I mean, that whole division is just duck and dodge each other. Nobody, and they can't. People get after Jaime for not fighting anybody, but it's everybody. I mean, Andrews jumped up to avoid fighting Tim Tszyu. Charlo doesn't want to fight Tszyu. Magia and Charlo don't want to fight each other. These guys fight once a year, basically. Tszyu actually going to be fighting next week also. So that'd be his second fight, guys. 2 fights for this guy in that one division before all these other guys have even fought one time. So Magia is going to be fighting, I think, his first time this year. And Charlo hasn't. We haven't seen Charlo since what last year, a year and a half, something like that. Way too long for guys to be out of the ring. And this is where I think a boxing commission could really help out and come in and force these guys to stop setting on their belts, man. If you're not going to fight, you don't deserve that belt, man. Get rid of it. Just like I feel like Canelo should not be allowed to jump outside of his division and go fight a guy for nothing. What are you fighting Bobal for? Just to say that you beat Bobal? That's great. But what are you fighting for? Stay down in 168. Fight the guys that deserve to be fought there. Go fight Benavidez that you should be fighting, and give other people an opportunity to win those belts. I think I've said this before on a few other episodes. This is one of the things that really irk me right now, especially with that 154 division. These guys sitting on their hands. Triple G, fight or retire, man. We know you just fought and you made a lot of money off that Canelo fight, so we don't know what you're going to do next. You haven't announced anything, and you've got the right to retire if you want to. But really, there's nobody. I mean, who are you going to fight? Who wants to fight you at this point? I'm a big fan of yours, anyways, but I'm not dogging Triple G. He fought a lot when everybody else wasn't fighting, so maybe yeah, he deserves some time off. But you take guys like Charlo, who are just, I mean, once a year fighters. I mean, Crawford and Spence are also bad for that too. Once a year fighters. That's not entertaining to me. You're not defending your belts, and you're not maximizing your capabilities and your top potential when you're only fighting once a year. If you could fight 3 times a year, you should be fighting 3 times a year, to be honest. You know what I mean? With camps and everything like that, 3 times is a very possible thing to do, especially when you're in your prime, man, because in boxing, your prime goes in and out. If you're only fighting once a year, that's why you got these guys that have been fighting since, 2015, 2012, and they've got 33, fights on their record and stuff like that. So, um, that's actually a lot of fights. I'll take that back. 33 fights in that amount of time. Not bad. But, these guys just got to get in there and they got to start fighting each other at the 154 division. We'll see what Magia does this week and then what happens afterwards. Like I said, I don't know where to go with this guy. I liked him when he first came in, was a big fan of his, but really don't know what to think about him right now. It's hard to judge a guy who's not fighting anybody on his level. And the zone doesn't seem to have a problem with it. I mean, the zone had Demetrius Andrade and Munguia at the same time, both in their prime, and it never got done. Same weight division, and Andre cried that he couldn't get any big fights. Nobody wants to fight me. And then the McGee fight didn't happen, so I didn't understand what happened there on the zone's part, on Matchroom's part to not make that fight happen. What happened with McGee and Andre not making that fight happen? Both of you guys were looking for big fights. It was right there in the same stable, basically, whatever, in the same. You guys were on the same platform and could have made that fight happen easily. And both of you ducked each other. I believe both ducked each other. I don't know if Andrade really ducked Munguia, but I mean he moved up to to avoid a fighter in my opinion and to do the mandatory that he was supposed to fight. But anyways, I think things got to happen there. Let's see what Munguia can do. Let's see if he can impress us. Dervinchenko is a pretty good fighter. I like him a lot. Like I said, the big fight this week, of course, was Taylor versus Lopez. I'm not going to get much into the Spence Crawford fight talk this week. I'm going to wait till that gets a little bit closer. I'm going to focus on the fights that are happening this month and give these guys some respect and kind of let Crawford and Taylor build that fight up a little bit this month. They got 2 months to build the fight. Seems like every channel, every podcast, everybody's talking about the Crawford Spence fight. I hit on it last week, was very excited that it was announced. Now I'm going to let it marinate a little bit, and then I'm going to jump back into talking about those guys when it gets later and closer to their fight. I don't want to really overlook the fights that are going to be happening now, especially like I said this weekend. It starts today and it's going to go all the way to Sunday. And I almost forgot about Floyd Mayweather is going to be fighting. I want to say is this an exhibition against Gotti the third. So I mean Floyd out there. I don't really watch those fights. They're hard to find. I think what was the network that he was going to be on? Right here it is in front of me. It's going to be streaming on the Zeus streaming service. I've never heard of it, so maybe that's something I'll check out. Just to watch. I don't think on a Sunday like that. It's usually family day. I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time watching an exhibition fight that doesn't have any meaning to it. And I don't know anything about Gotti the third, so that's just, but that's a fight that you guys might be interested in. So check it out. Here we go on a new segment that I like to do, and that's called the Big Fight of the Week. And we talked about it a little bit already, Lopez and Taylor. Uh, I don't know if there's much more for me to hit on this, man. These guys, I think, are going to go out and they're going to bang it out. And that leads me into my big fight prediction for the big fight of the week. And looking at it, I think Taylor holds the advantage, being the naturally bigger, natural 140 guy, harder puncher than Lopez, in my opinion. And all the issues that Lopez has going outside of the ring may carry into the ring with him. Uh, and if he can't keep his head right like that Kambosa fight and he just comes out there trying to swing, I think Josh Taylor is going to make him pay. I'm going to take this under 10 rounds and I'm going to give it to Taylor with a KO around the 7th or 8th round, I think. He'll take Lopez out. And don't get me wrong, though, Lopez could prove me wrong, and there's a big chance he can. I think everybody's overlooking him. Most people are picking Taylor. I'm not going with what most people are picking, just going by what I personally think that is going to happen in the fight. I think Taylor's a more better all around fighter, more rounded. Is he more talented than Lopez? I don't believe he's more talented than Lopez is. Lopez has a shitload of talent. He's just got a lot of crazy stuff going on in his head and unpredictable. I guess you could say he's really unpredictable for a fighter, and those make some of the scariest fighters because they can come out and get Kambosa, or you can come out and you can get Lomachenko, where the way he fought against Loma instead of the way he fought against Kambosa, where he dominated that fight. I'd like to see him get back up to that Loma status. Show us that same thing. I mean, because the one thing about Lopez, he doesn't duck anybody, man. He went straight to 140. Fought who was it, Comey? Uh, was it Comey? I think he fought Comey, and then Frank Sanchez. He went and fought him, and now he's going to go fight Josh Taylor. He doesn't duck anybody in any weight division that he's in, and he wants to fight the best. So I give that kid a lot of respect for that. And Taylor, same way. He's fought six straight undefeated guys. He doesn't shy away from anybody. He wants the big fights. He wants to be, unified champion, all that. So, this is going to be a heck of a fight, man. But I think I'm going to go with Taylor under 10 rounds with a KO by Taylor over Lopez this weekend. See what else I wanted to talk about. Not a lot of news in boxing this week. Not a lot that I had seen. Outside of rumors of Fury's going to fight this guy, Fury's going to fight that guy, Fury's going to fight this guy, Fury's going to fight that guy. No real on who's going to fight. Now, I have heard that Usyk is signed up for September 12th, something like that, to fight his mandatory Tobias. So that fight's going to happen in September, so we will get to see a heavyweight fight here soon. Anthony Joshua was supposed to be fighting, was it Dillian White? I think he's supposed to be fighting him, but I've also heard rumors of Wilder. They're trying to get that fight going. Wilder's saying that Usyk is scared of him. I don't think Usyk's scared of anybody. But if you're going to be afraid of somebody, it would probably be Wilder. I mean, the guy has one of the heaviest punches I've ever seen, and that punch is deadly. If he can knock down a 300 and something pound uh, fighter and Fury the way he did two different fights, knocked him completely cold in the first fight, and then almost knocked him out in the third fight. So you can sit there and tell me that he's just a big puncher, blah blah blah, all this, but there's not one guy out there, I think, outside of Fury, who could withstand that punch from Deontay Wilder, and that is why he is the number one contender right now. I mean, he's got the hardest punch. He's the most deadliest guy out there at the moment. I don't think Usyk's afraid of him. I think Usyk's smart enough to figure out how to fight a guy like him, but you can't avoid that big punch from him. It is going to land at one point, and you saw that in all the Fury fights that he's going to land that at some point. It's just, can you withstand it? Can you get through that and then still continue to do what Fury did? Fury bounced back, got through that round, sat down, got his head right, came back out, and he knew he had to avoid it. He also had the advantage in the size of being able to lean on Wilder the way he did. There's no other guy that's going to be able to do that. Wilder's 6'7". Usyk can't lean on him, and that's how I really think Fury beat Wilder. Was he leaned on him? He eliminated that being able to get that big punch off. He wasn't able to, get it loaded and unload that big punch with a guy on him, and he was wearing him down and then losing that. And if you can't get it off, you can't utilize your big punch, and that's where learning your jab and learning the fundamentals of boxing, like your footwork and your jab, to establish and set up your big punch. That's where that comes in, and that's where Wilder has his biggest fault, is that he is a boxer. Don't get me wrong, Wilder would. I wouldn't say anything about this guy. He could absolutely stomp me to the ground. So I'm not going to say he's not a boxer, because he's more of a boxer than I am. He is a boxer. He's got one of the deadliest punches ever, but he needs to learn all the fundamentals of boxing. And everybody's like, well, I don't know if he could do it at this point. Yeah, I think he could do it at this point. Why couldn't you? I mean, everybody learns, and I think it's not hard to teach a guy how to establish a jab and get your footwork correctly so that he can set up those big punches. Same thing with Ryan Garcia. He had that issue. He's a big left-hand puncher, and he just lives and dies by that big punch. Same thing with Wilder. He lives and dies by that big punch. And when you got a guy like Fury who is bigger than him, he posed a threat, to Wilder, and didn't allow Wilder to do what Wilder does best and get that punch off. Got to applaud Fury for that. Great. Shows his IQ in boxing and everything like that. Pretty impressive. But like I said, I don't think Usyk's afraid of Wilder. But do I think Wilder could beat Usyk? I think, yeah, very possible. That punch, like I said, just makes him deadly. Can you avoid it? And if it does land, can you make it through it? Can you survive that punch? Yeah, that's not a lot of fight news this week. Just some, guys talking about they want to fight this and they want to fight that. Of course, that's boxing for you. I'm waiting for some big news to land. That's why when I first started my show, I said that, hey, I always wanted to do my show. I wanted to release it on a Monday or a Tuesday. And I always wonder why other podcasts didn't do that. Why some of my favorite, like Chris Mannix, I like him a lot. I listen to him. I listen to Teddy Atlas and them, and then I wonder why these guys weren't releasing it sooner because I always want to hear about boxing. I'm always looking for the news. I don't want to be the last to know about it. I want to be the very first and check out every site I can to try to figure out all the awesome news that I can figure out and be the first to jump on it. But now I found out that boxing is that sport that kind of moves slowly. Some weeks you've got a lot of news, and then some weeks you don't have any news at all. You just got rumors and stories and people trying to make news. You get a lot of that in boxing, people trying to make news. I heard that the latest one was that who was it? The WBC, WBA was going to make it a mandatory fight with Joshua and Fury, which that can't happen. That's not going to happen. They can't make that mandatory. These guys, you know, can't force that fight. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I don't think Joshua or his camp wants that fight. I don't think Joshua wants this Wilder fight. I really don't think he should. I think even when he goes fights Dillian White again, how are you? How do you think that's okay? How should I put this? How does he think that that's preparing him to get better? Fighting a guy he already fought, fighting a guy that's not going to make him better, fighting a guy that he's not going to learn anything from fighting again. Why is he not out there challenging himself against some of these younger guys and trying to give them a chance to build his reputation back up to where he could go after and fight a guy like Wilder? Uh, I don't know what the thought process of his camp is. I don't think he mentally is strong enough to come back from those losses to Usyk. I think he poses a lot of problems with himself in his own head, and I think if he went out and if that fight against Wilder is scheduled and happens in December, hey, I'm going to watch it, but I'm going to let you guys know now that Anthony Joshua will get knocked out in that, and that could possibly end his career. So if you're a fan of Anthony Joshua, I think you want to see him build himself back up to that level before he goes and tries to sign a contract with Fury or before he goes and tries to sign a contract with Wilder, unless he just wants to make that big money and then jump out of it and then go do his thing with the zone. I don't think the zone's going to let him do that. He's got a lot of money on the table there. So I think they want their money out of him. But I think he could be a good announcer. He could draw faces like that, stuff like that. If he got into announcing and stuff, something different. But if he's looking to make some big paydays and get out of the sport, Wilder or Fury, that's your paydays. But if you're looking to build yourself back up and become a champion again, sometimes you got to start back at the training wheel process and build yourself up to walking again and being a top contender. Right now, I don't think he's a top contender. They got him in the top five, maybe top three, if I'm correct. I don't see that. He's not right now, even with the heavyweight division not being as strong as it could be. He's not a top three contender, in my opinion. So hey, let's see what he can do anyways. Let's see if this guy can build himself back up. That's what I would like to see Joshua do because I think that's a better route for him. He's young and he can still do something with his career. Anyways, man, that is pretty much all I've got this week, fight fans. Talking about the fights coming up. Like I said, we got a nice fight weekend starting today, baby. Starting today. You should be able to catch that fight here pretty soon. It's 4 o'clock Eastern time where I'm at right now. That fight's probably going to start I'd say 6, 7 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock being in California. So over in the West Coast, probably about a 5 o'clock start time for you guys, probably about 8 o'clock start time for us over here on the East Coast. But thank you guys for tuning in to episode 6 of the Sweet Science 365. And once again, I'm your host, Jeff Bolts. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And thank you guys for tuning in, man. Have yourself a great week, guys.